So I will now jump into the value of options contract. So actually what gives the options contract is value. How do we define the options value? It's actually consisting of two components. One is intrinsic value, the other one is extrinsic value. So basically intrinsic value is the value calculated by the difference of the current price versus the strike price. As for the extrinsic value, it's the first component is actually time, and the second component is the IV, which is called implied volatility. So what is intrinsic value? In this, I would like to introduce two terms to you. The first one is called in the money. We normally use the short form ITM, and out of the money, OTM. So for a call option, because the call options and the put options is actually opposite to each other. So for the call option, if the current price of the stock price is lower than the strike price of the options contract, then it is called out of money. And if the current price of the stock price is more than strike price, then it is called in the money. Sorry. Okay. So for the put, it's actually different. It's opposite. If the current price of the stock price is more than strike price, then it is called out of the money. And the current price of the stock price is lower than the strike price, then it is called in the money. So in this, I actually took a screenshot from TD Ameritrade to show you guys what it means. So for example, this Apple price, the stock price is actually 132. So in TD Ameritrade, actually they highlighted for you already. If the strike price, the strike here is lower than the current stock price, then it is in the money. So they highlighted the in the money part. And the not highlighted one is actually out of the money. And how you look at this is that the left side is actually the call options. And the right side is the put options. So for the in the money, it's actually if the stock price is in the money, you have a intrinsic value. So intrinsic value is based on the difference between the current price and the strike price. So let's say in this example 132, if your strike price is 120, your intrinsic value is actually 132 minus 120, which is 12. But if you are out of the money, it has no intrinsic value at all. So it actually equals to 0. So now I will be going into extrinsic value. The first component of the extrinsic value is actually time. And because the date to expiry is actually part of the components of a contract. And so, and this is actually talking about the contract. If let's say the contract is closer to expiry date, the value of the contract is actually lower. So what this means is that, as you can see from the chart here, is the graph is actually a curve downwards. So actually from the time remaining until expiry date, if let's say 120 days until 90 days, the drop in the time decay is actually very low. But as the days gets nearer to the date of expiry, the time decay drops much faster. So that is why if let's say you are buying a options contract, we do recommend to buy a long term so that the time decay is actually doesn't eat up your contract value. But if you're buying a short term one, the time eats up the value of the contract very fast. So the other component of the extrinsic value is actually called implied volatility, IV. What this means is it is the market's forecast of a likely movement in the price. It is actually telling you how volatile the stock is. The larger the price movement that is forecasted to be moving, the higher the IV, the value. So what this means is that if let's say the stock of the uh, if let's say the stock of a current example stock, the price movement is from 10 to 40 and then back down to 20 and suddenly jump up to 60 in a few days. This this has a much higher IV value because it is unpredictable and the price movement is actually forecast to move up and down a lot. And what for this particular example, there is I wrote here before earnings release. So normally during after earnings is released, the price of the stock actually most of the time will actually gap up or gap down a lot. It will actually move a lot. So that is why before the earnings is released, the IV of the stock will actually tend to be higher. So after earnings release and everyone knows the result, then the IV will drop back down. Okay, so far, is everyone clear on the components and value of the options? So, so higher IV, higher price, yes. So let me bring you back to the components. So as I mentioned here, our option value is actually the sum of intrinsic value and extrinsic value. So if there is intrinsic value, then the options value will be higher. So in the intrinsic value case, if it is in the money, it means that the options value is higher. So for extrinsic value, if you have more time uh, before expiry, then your value will be higher. And if there is higher IV, then your options value will also be higher. Yeah. So that is how the options value is derived from. Okay. So if everyone is clear, I will jump to the next part. Uh, I, I think this will be the last part for this part one. So it's actually comparing the options versus underlying stocks versus CFD. So for example, this Apple stock, the plan, you actually have a plan for this Apple stock that you want to buy a $2,000 worth of either options or stocks or CFD and hold for maybe half a year. And currently Apple price is 132.05. So for the options, your capital, okay, the capital of the options, the stock and the CFD is I put here 2,000 because that is your plan that you want to spend only 2,000 capital. So let's say for the options, a $2,000 capital, you can actually buy at the money ATM, which means that the options contract strike price is around the share price of the current share price. So it can be about 130 strike price. And you buy for a expiry date of January 2022, which is 1 year contract. So actually, you may ask why your plan is actually to actually hold for half a year, but you buy a longer expiry. This is with regards to the time value of the options. So by half a year, actually, the options, the time decay is not that much when after half a year. So that is why you choose to buy a longer time. Okay. So let's say example one, if the stock is 170 by June 2021, the options contract will increase because of intrinsic value, and but the time decay is will kick in. So it's actually decaying in time, but it's not that much because you still have more time until expiry. So this increase in options price is mainly with regards to the intrinsic value of the options. So in this case, 4,000 minus 2,000, your return is actually 100%. But if let's say something happened and the stock price goes to zero by June, that's the worst case scenario. You will never know what happened. So if it happens to go to zero, then your options value is also not no value. So in the end, you will just lose your 2,000 capital. So for stocks, if you just buy the underlying stocks and the stock price moves from 132 to 170, the ending value is actually 2,575. So your percentage gain is only 28.8%, which is about 3 times lesser than options return. But if the stock is go to zero, the amount you lose is also the same, which is the capital that you have put in. But for the third case, which is the CFD, if let's say I want to leverage times 5, so in the end, the CFD calculation is this. So it's 170 minus 132 times 5. And then you times back how many units you bought. So you actually get a higher return, which is 4,878 and 144% return. But the downside of CFD is actually a double-edged sword. So if the stock is happen to go to zero, you actually lose out 10,000, much more than your first capital. So that is why options is you can leverage your returns, but actually minimize your risk. So everyone clear on this? So by this, I'm actually I will be actually ending the part 1 of the options basics. And if you have any questions, you can ask currently. Because actually after this slide, I have a few questions to ask you guys to test and see if you understand or not. Yeah. So if you want, you can also unmute yourself to ask the question.
Hey, bro. So a question here. If I have, let's say for the example you gave just now, if I have 2K, right? How do I choose? Should I buy options or should I buy stocks? Or it's a scenario-based question?
Okay. So either options of stocks. So if let's say your capital is the same, your losses, your downside is the worst case scenario is the same. But the downside is actually not exactly the same because the stocks are going down. If the stock's going down by $1, you actually lose $1. But for options, right, you actually lose more than $1 per stock per price. But then the upside is that your gains is actually leverage. It's much higher gains than the compared to stocks. So just now I also talked about the time value for the options. So in the stocks case, if you are prepared to hold it for 5 years or 10 years, then buying stocks would be the best case because you can hold through the up and down. And if you are having a conviction in the stocks, then you can just hold it forever. But for options, it has a time decay, so you cannot hold on to it for forever. So let's say if your plan is a half a year plan, but what if in half a year the stock suddenly plunge down 20%, 30%, but you do not have time on your side for the stock to recover back and you are forced to sell it. So that is the downside of options. So that is why we will always recommend to have a much longer date to expiry so that you have more time on your side to hold it. Yeah.
So for stocks, it's like assets, I can hold it for a very, very long time. Then
Yes.
for options, it's more decaying assets.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
how
Correct.
how long is the longest period of time I can hold a options contract?
Okay. For options, normally they have contracts up to 2 years, 2 years or 2 years plus, and it is different for every kind of every counter stock counter. So if Apple has this, let's say for Apple, uh, the uh, the longest time of contract they may have is maybe 2 years. But for other stocks, let's say for example, Nokia, maybe they have only up to 1 year or half a year. So it really depends on what kind of counters.
Okay. So let's say Apple 2 years, I can hold it until say 1.5 year. So I will
Yeah,
still have some time. Okay.
yeah, correct. So as I will show you the time decay chart. So actually what we recommend is that uh, you will you will need to close off your contracts before 120 days to expiry date because if you have more than 120 days, the time decay difference is actually very minimal. So although it's still a decaying asset, but it does not decay so fast as compared to less than 120 days. Yeah. So I see a question from Han Yang. How is the 4,000 derived? So, okay, the 4,000 is actually it's just a example used in this situation. Uh, Normally, how the value of options is derived is, as I mentioned over here, is intrinsic value plus extrinsic value. So let's say in that case, the time value is still on our side. Although it decay just a little bit, it will not decay much. And let's say the IV is consistent throughout the half a year. So what gives the options value a big jump is the intrinsic value, which is the current price versus the strike price. So it's actually, let me show you one thing. So normally, right, for $1 movement for a stock price, let's say from 120, let's say $5, 120 to 125. There's actually a $5 gain for one share. So in total, you gain 500 per contract. So that is how the value, intrinsic value of the options price come about. So let's say 132, you go up to 170. The difference is about 40. And 40 you times 100 is already actually should be more valuable than this 4,000. Yeah, so I hope I answered your question. Yeah. So actually one thing I can mention here, but this is more in depth already. This is regarding to the delta value. So every option chain has a delta value. What this delta value means is that for every $1 stock price movement, how much your options intrinsic value will go. So for example, let's say for 120 strike price, if the Apple stock goes up by 1, means 132 to 133, your options value actually go up by $66. So this is what the delta means. And if you, in this case, if you go up further to the lower strike price, the delta is actually 1. So it means that for every $1 of movement, your options value is also move $1. So that is why it is exponentially going up. Yeah. So yeah, if you guys, do you guys have any other questions? If not, I will jump to the next part, which is quiz time for you guys. Okay. So for the first question, for the example here, what kind of options contract is it? Can you guys maybe type in the chat box the answer for this question? This is so that I want you guys to really understand what I've talked about. Okay, buy call, buy call. I have 2 answers, but I have 5 people here. Okay, buy call. Yeah, so the answer is actually buy call. From here, you can see from the first column is actually a buying of a contract, and the type is call. So you guys are correct, buy call. So the next question is how much do you need to pay in total for this contract, for this screenshot here? That means like how much premium, how much capital you need in order to execute this. Yes, of course, but actually you do not need a calculator for this. I can give one hint here. the quantity is actually 10 contracts. Okay, so Han Young put 18,800. How about the others? Yes, correct. So the answer is 18,800. So how do you arrive by this amount? It's actually by looking at the price. This is showing the price per contract per share. So one contract actually have 100 share. So you need to times multiply by 100. So you get 1,880. And in this order, there is actually 10 contracts. So you multiply by 10 to get 18800. Yeah. So the third question, if you predict that the stock price will go money enough only for one contract. Yeah, most of us only have enough for one contract, but if you have grown a lot of capital, then you can increase the number of contracts if you are convicted. So yeah, the third question, if you predict that the stock price will go up, what will you do? There may be more than one correct answer. There's A, B, C, D. Buy long. 3 longs. Okay, C, buy call, correct. But actually there may be more than one correct answer. So there will, both of you answered buy call. But which other answer is correct as well? So the answer is actually buy call and sell put. Yeah, Han Yang, you are correct. CD. Okay. And last question. If you predict that the stock price is trading sideways, what do you do? So the stock price, if you predict it will not go up or it will not go down, it stay the same. What can you do? Okay, D. And just a hint, there is also 2 possible correct answers in this question. So the answer is actually B and D, sell call and sell put. Why for a stock price, if it's not moving, you can still sell call and sell put? Because you can always, if you are talking about sell put, you can always sell at a lower strike price. Means that the stock price it will never go to your strike price. So the chances of you required to buy the shares is very low. So you can actually pocket the premium. And for sell call as well, yeah, for sell call as well, you can also collect money and when the stock price is not moving up or down. Yep. So that is why a lot of people mention about options contract, how you can actually earn money, profit if the stock price is not moving up or not moving down. Because for other ways, if you buy a stock or you buy a CFD in a side way, you will not profit and also you will not lose anything. But for options, you can still profit out of sideway movement stock. So, yep. So that's the end of my session here. And this is actually with regards to the part 2 of the power of options, I will be going into more on the basic strategies that you can use for your own, and what are the strategies that is more suitable for small capital, for large capital, as well as for beginners. Yeah. So for those, for the next part, I will be touching more on those. So I will be giving you guys the link shortly. Hold on.
So, bro, before you end off, I have one question to ask. So, just now you mentioned about trading sideways, you can sell call and sell put, right?
Yes.
It links to one important question. Does it mean that your sell call and sell put will only be executed at certain price level?
Okay. Okay. So for sell call and sell put, right? It will always you always have the risk of it being executed, because the buyer can actually exercise their rights to buy or sell the stock whenever they want. But uh, for what I meant is, if let's say you are selling a put at a lower price, but the stock price stay the same here, normally the person, the buying of the put will not exercise that, because it will be not valuable for them to do so. Let's say, for example, your strike price is 40 and the current stock price is 60. So the buyer of the put is actually, they have the right to sell the stock at 40. But now the price is still moving at 60. They can sell it at a much higher price at 60 compared to exercising it at 40. So that is why the probability of you getting exercise is very low. But there is still a possibility.
Okay, understand.
So for the setting of call is the other way around. Yeah. So in the chat box, I have dropped the link to the form for you to register for the next part 2. So I'll be planning to put it on in February, either before Chinese New Year or during Chinese New Year, since we are unable to go anywhere. Yeah. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the session. And yeah, in the form, I also put a feedback, uh, what do you call it? Feedback paragraph. So you can write down what you think of the first section and what do you see as I can improve on. Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much for your sharing today, Zipei. So before you end off, right, just to shout out to the floor again, anyone has any questions from part 1? So this will be the first part of the 2 parts of options basic. The next one is also option basic, right, Zipei?
Options basic strategies.
Basics and strategy, yeah. So this part 1 will be mostly to cover the fundamentals knowledge you need to know before you jump into any of the strategies discussion. So yeah, do shout out if you have any question. So so during the next session you will understand everything that Zipei covered. So Zipei, can you quickly do a 2-minute summary on everything you talked about?
Okay, sure. Okay, so to summarize, I have talked about what is options and what are the components of an options contract, and what are the difference between a call options and a put option, and as well as for the buyer and seller, it's a different direction. And I have covered the examples as well. you can read through it. Okay, by the way, for these slides, I will be uploading them onto a post in my website. So later on, you guys can go and check it out and get the slides. And yeah, so I have also covered this summary, in which case you are looking for the stock price to go up or down, which one is the correct way to execute an options contract. And also what is the upside and what is the downside for each scenario. And I have also jumped into the options contract value, which is the intrinsic value and extrinsic value. And comparing between stocks and CFD. Yeah, so this is basically what I have covered today. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Zipei. So yeah, thanks for those who attended also. And this session is actually recorded, so we will find somewhere to place our recording later. But you can definitely find it on Zipei's post, which he just shared his website link here, www.thejourneyto1mil.com. All right, please do support Zipei because I know that he will be posting a lot of valuable posts moving onwards from time to time, right? I believe so.
Yeah.
So yeah, another thing to say is that on Monday will be our Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day in US. So there will not be any market open on Monday itself. So any trading will happen on Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. Singapore time. All right. So if you all have the basics concept already, you can actually try out during Tuesday with paper money if you want. So our recommended brokerage or platform for options, right, is TD and IB. Yeah, for me, I use both. Zipei, do you use IB or you focus only on?
I actually have IB account, but I do not use it.
Okay, yeah. So TD and IB, I think this is what both of us are using. It's what we are comfortable and we are more familiar with. So if you all want to leverage your gains and to scale your portfolio faster to the next level, do open an IB or TD account. Maybe Zipei, you can later share your referral code in the group also, so they can use your referral code to register.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So TD, right? It takes
I think
a lot time. It takes a very long time to get it done. For my case, I use around 3 weeks to complete the whole process. Right.
Yeah,
So they are
same
yeah.
for me. For TD, actually, if you sign up right away, you can actually use their paper money account right away and start to trade. But for your real account to get approved, it may take very long. And what I actually do is I call them during office hours every day, every morning, and to find out what can we do to expedite them. Yeah.
Every morning, bro.
At the time, yes.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So like Zipei mentioned, right? If you want to, you can open TD first. So once your account is set on that day itself, you can start to use the paper trading already to get some practice on with the virtual money before you try to burn your own money. Right. So for IB, I think the process is faster. It usually takes a few days. So yeah, for those who are interested, you can try to apply either TD or IB. So TD will be my preferred platform in the long term. I think it's the same for Zipei as well. So yeah, whichever you want to use. So TD and IB. Hanyang also mentioned Tiger Broker can use options also, right, Hanyang? If you can unmute yourself or you can type anywhere.
Yeah, if I'm not wrong, yeah, you can do it.
Tiger, okay, yeah. So you can use Tiger if you prefer, but yeah, TD and IB, for me is much more secure compared to like the beginner user friendly eToro. Like Zipei mentioned on the comparison just now, option stock CFD, right? CFD when you do leverage, yes, you have more gains, but more losses to come if you didn't cover your ass. Okay, so yeah, options stocks. CFD. We place all the 3 options for you. So choose whichever you want that fits your investment goal or trading goals. Okay. Yep, that's all for me. Any more inputs from you, Zipei?
Not really, but I just want to say that for whatever you choose to do, you have to make sure that you have conviction, and you make sure that you do a lot of study on your own. Yeah, that's what I need to say.
Absolutely, man. So just to give a quick real life example on my side. So for me, okay, this is my personal opinion, just as a disclaimer. So for me, I'm an Apple long-term fan. Okay, so I always promote Apple. So what I did yesterday, right? Yeah, just yesterday, I actually went to Apple Marina Bay Sands. For those who don't know, Apple Marina Bay Sands, they have a new site there, and yeah, you need to actually book a appointment date to go in. So the moment I go in, right, I start grilling my employee. I was asking her question for 2 hours, all the way from training, all the way from products, how their employment benefit is, how is their structure, everything. Okay, so I did my grassroots check, and I find that wow, Apple is really, I really have to say that I have 100% conviction on Apple. Their employee benefits are good, their structure are good, their trainings are good, their products are good. And even right now, right, previously Apple, you can't mix and match your products. So right now, Apple, you can actually mix and match your specs already online, which is something I discovered yesterday. Yeah, so yeah, actually Apple is growing, and as you all know, every time when they release iPhone, usually people rush to buy, right? So I did my check yesterday also. So Marina Bay Sands was crowded during the year end. So people were just rushing for last minute buy during festive. So we shall see how it goes during the upcoming earning release. All right, this is just my point of view. Hint for you, but do your own homework. All right. Yeah, Zipei, last words from you, and we close off.
Okay, yeah. Just now, as you mentioned, Apple. Actually, yesterday I also saw the stock price is actually at a pretty nice entry level. But yeah,
Yes.
please do your due diligence and invest safe, stay safe. For the people in Malaysia, stay safe from COVID.
Yeah, Hanyang, stay home. Don't go out, eat mama. Okay, I think that's all for today, guys. All right, thank you for joining, and we shall see you on part 2 if you want to join. And yeah, the form is there, the link is there. I will share it in the group later. So thanks for joining. Enjoy your weekend, people.